So hello and welcome everyone. My name is Natural Love and I'm the Assistant Director for Community Engagement with the Office for Community and Civic Engagement at UNC Pembroke. Today, I'm via WebEx with Ms. Kelly Henry, Volunteer Recruitment Specialist at American Red Cross for the Community Partner Spotlight. This initiative, it was designed to spotlight various community partners and just the work that they do within the community. They'll be every third Thursday at 10 a.m. So during today's conversation, be prepared to hear and listen to Ms. Henry as she talks about the work that she does within her community organization, as well as sharing ways with how you all can get involved as well. So, hi, Kelly. How are you this morning?
Good morning. Thanks for having me. It's nice to talk to people again.
Thank you for joining us. Thank you so much. So, Kelly, can you just tell us just a little bit about who you are, what you do?
So my official title is I'm a recruitment specialist with the American Red Cross. And what that means is I try to find volunteers who can support our mission. So the Red Cross is this massive organization, and many nonprofits are primarily run by employees, and then you have a handful of volunteers who help things get done. The Red Cross turns that on its head. We are 90% volunteer-led, and then the other 10% are staff who are there, who, our role is to support our volunteers. So when we look at what's happening along the Gulf Coast today, where we have shelters running, where we're feeding, I think the day before yesterday, we fed 43,000 people in Louisiana before Hurricane Sally came ashore, just still as part of the Hurricane Laura and Hurricane Marco response. Those are volunteers. Those are people from the local community, as well as people from all across the United States who give up their time and travel to where there's a need to support this community. So my job is to find those people. And, luckily here in Eastern North Carolina, there's just such a strong service component. I mean, we see it on campuses like UNC Pembroke, and we see it through all our communities where people really want to give back. They want to connect, they want to help. And even during COVID, when you would think folks would sort of be hunkering down and, being a little more internally focused, our numbers of volunteer applications are up 20% this year over last year. And I think that's really a testimony to the character of our communities.
That is awesome. I know you would think now with the current climate that we're in that volunteerism wouldn't be as big. So the fact that they're up, and that says a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that this is true across the country, but we definitely see it here. When things shut down in the middle of March, my teammates and I were like, oh my gosh, what do we do? How do we find the folks that we need? I mean, COVID's scary. People may not want to continue to volunteer. And for some of our volunteers, especially some of our older volunteers, they wanted to step back from some of that in-person kinds of service because, they're rightfully worried about their own health. But communities have stepped up when we had blood drives that were canceled because the places where the blood drive was supposed to be held was closed. We have so many other organizations saying, we'll host a blood drive. We know that there's an ongoing need for blood. This is a way our community, our organization, our company, whatever it is, this is a way we can help. And then I was just talking to a young Marine this morning from Cherry Point. He's like, me and my 15 buddies, we want to go to Louisiana and help. I'm like, I would love that, but let's get you need to be a Red Cross volunteer, and you need to do our training, and then we're happy to, to get you to Louisiana where you can help, or you can hang out because there's, a gazillion different hurricanes brewing in the Atlantic right now. We may need you here as well.
Absolutely. Making those connections and getting them connected. I think that's so awesome. Can you tell us a little bit, Kelly, just about a brief overview of just the American Red Cross when it comes to maybe like you all's mission, like what are some of those services that people can take part of and be a part of, as well as just anything else that you would like to share about American Red Cross?
So our mission is to prevent and alleviate human suffering in the face of emergencies by using the power of volunteers and the resources of donors. And so when people think of the Red Cross, that's what they think about a lot of times is disaster response, especially in Eastern North Carolina. I mean, we're still We still have volunteers supporting the tornadoes in Bertie County that came about as part of Tropical Storm Isaias. We still, especially in Robeson County, we've seen the impact of storms like Florence and Matthew, where the flooding wiped out homes, and how I-40 had fish on it. We've seen the power of those storms, and so a big part of what we do is disaster response. In fact, probably a third of the volunteers that we have here in Eastern North Carolina are working in our disaster response service line. But in addition to that, we also have our service to the Armed Forces program. And so again, we have a pretty strong military connection here in Eastern North Carolina. And what those folks do is they support our VA hospitals and outpatient clinics. We put volunteers into those facilities. And they also help with emergency messaging for service members and their families. So, for example, if there's a service member who's deployed overseas and there's an emergency here at home, the family can come to the Red Cross, and then we communicate that emergency to that service member's command to try to facilitate bringing that service member back home. So, I grew up in a Navy family, and my dad found out that I was born because he was out at sea because he got a Red Cross message. So sometimes it's, happy news, like there's a new baby. And sometimes it's sad news. Somebody's ill and your presence is requested at the bedside, or somebody has passed away. But our volunteers facilitate that as well. So those are our two biggest mission areas. We also blood drives, especially now, we used to have blood mobiles that we could send, put in a parking lot somewhere, and we could do a little blood drive right there. We can't do that anymore because our blood mobiles are too small to allow for social distancing. So that's a big mission we have. We have a fixed site down in Wilmington. We also have fixed sites up in Durham and in Raleigh. And then we do a lot of mobile drives, especially in the Lumberton area. So we need volunteers for that. And then volunteer services, we're sort of the back office piece of what the Red Cross does. Our job is to bring volunteers in and to support volunteers through their volunteer service.
That's absolutely. And I think too, to highlight that I've always heard, just, as a staff member, when it came to American Red Cross, people often associate that American Red Cross is, they're just the ones who are asking for blood or trying to get blood. And the fact that you've already outlined like numerous services, just not also on UNCP service you also offer, I think that alone is going to be instrumental with getting students in different majors connected with you all, and just thinking about how they can start learning these skills and creating those adaptable skills even after they graduate.
One of the things we do is, we have an onboarding team. So when somebody goes to our website and they fill out a volunteer application, the first part of it's automated. You fill out an online application, you verify your email address, you click the box saying you've read the terms and conditions and you agree to them. And it's, then you get a series of automated messages letting you know what's going to happen next. But then a person has to pick up a phone and call that new volunteer and talk to them about, what is it you want to do with the Red Cross? Do you have any specific skills? What's your availability? Are you available an hour a week or an hour a month? And then how do we match what the skill set you have, the availability you have to where we have a volunteer need? So for people who are interested in HR as a career, or even, social work, we use a lot of social work students in this role. Being able to interview somebody, tease out information that's helpful, and then match their interests, their abilities, their availability to where we have a need. There's a science to it, but there's also an art to it. And so that any kind of career field that you're thinking about that's going to require you to talk to people, even journalism, that would be another great fit for that. So we have, as part of our disaster response, going back to Hurricane Katrina, one of the biggest obstacles to disaster response in Katrina was that the communication systems couldn't talk to each other. So what first responders were using versus so law enforcement and fire and military, none of them were using the same comm system. And so that really impeded the ability of all of those organizations to work together and respond. We bring in a team that sets up an IT system so that we have those kinds of, we stand it up. So if you're a techie kind of person, there's a role there as well. We have over 1,000 different volunteer positions. So it's it's almost like we come in and set up a small city. We provide the IT support. We provide a place for people to sleep. We feed people. We have now a really robust disaster health services team that's doing assessments to make sure, have you potentially been exposed to COVID? Are you symptomatic? Or something along the lines of you had to evacuate and now you don't have your hearing aids. So how do we get you those resources that you need? So there is a role for just about everybody in the Red Cross.
And I would say too, since we're talking about volunteerism and what that role can look like for them, are there just any specific like qualities or training measures, or are there any specific traits that a student or skills that they kind of have to possess or should possess, or is it kind of, hey, we'll get you plugged in for the area that's most suitable for you?
Well, I think honestly, the one trait that every Red Cross volunteer has is that they want to serve, they want to make a difference. And beyond that, it's anybody can be a good Red Cross volunteer. There are people who are extroverts and they want to be in that forward facing, talking to clients, not hands on right now because of COVID, but we have a bunch of volunteers who are really struggling because they're huggers. And right now they can't hug their clients, so that's a hardship. But then we have other people who are, they're the back office folks. They're the ones who are managing logistics, who are working on IT systems, who are doing the fiscal reviews to make sure that the money that we're spending is being accounted for. They're not the huggers, but they're equally important, and they're necessary in a disaster and anything else that we do. So, we have people. We have a team that supports a lot of blood drives in Harnett County, and they do themed blood drives. And so their snacks always have a theme. Like in May, they do sort of a Cinco de Mayo blood drive. And so they have chips and salsa. They don't serve margaritas, but they do serve, sort of Tex-Mex food at their blood drive so people can have a snack afterwards. I think I was really fortunate. I went and gave blood there last November, and they do pie for Thanksgiving. And so they had like 5 or 6 different kinds of pies, so you could have some pie after you gave blood. So, you wouldn't think being a baker is what we're looking for in a volunteer, but some of those volunteers have used that skill to enhance their volunteer experience and to find a way to connect with the community where they're serving.
Absolutely. And I would say that makes me think of us as an office. And as our goal is to really hone in on like those student strengths, and the fact that you all as a community organization are saying like, hey, though baking might not be what we're asking for, it's like, hey, but if you can do that, like where that could align with and fit with you all and your organization. So Haley, just tell us a little bit about too. I know we've talked about volunteers and just ways that they can get connected, but I guess just digging deep into your personal, like your career, what led you to you're as a volunteer recruitment specialist? Like what led you to this route?
Well, I was in the Navy for 20 years. And so when I retired from the Navy, at that point, we had 3 young children. And my husband was in the Army and was getting ready to go to Iraq. So I knew working full-time outside of the home was not in my immediate future. And, my 3 children were keeping me pretty busy. But when I was thinking as I was retiring from the Navy, what is it I want to do? And I'm like, I don't really know. What I did in the Navy doesn't really translate very well to the civilian world, but I knew I wanted to be affiliated with an organization that does good. And so I thought, the Red Cross is one of those organizations that immediately comes to mind. We make a difference. We make a difference in communities across the country every single day. And the volunteers that, I'm privileged to work with, they have such a heart for service that, and I didn't know that personally, but I just knew that by reputation at that point. So as my children grew and I began to have a little more time, I started volunteering with organizations in my community. And really saw as a volunteer the power of volunteers, how volunteers amplify an organization's impact. Because I'm an employee of the Red Cross now, so I'm paid to say nice things about the Red Cross. And so you have me saying nice things versus a volunteer saying nice things. What the volunteer has to say is so much more powerful than what I have to say, because they're voting with their time and their energy and their talents. And if they are taking all of, if they're giving of themselves to an organization, then that really is the best testimony you can have for an organization. So I began working for the Red Cross when we were living in Miami, and I was working with our Service to the Armed Forces team there. And then we moved back to North Carolina. And as I was looking for work in North Carolina, this job popped up. I'm like, that's perfect. That job should be mine. So I reached out and went through the application process and was really thrilled when I was offered this position. It gives me the opportunity to travel over, not right now, but before COVID, to travel over big parts of Eastern North Carolina and meet a lot of folks and talk about what we do and help people understand how they can, make a difference in their community.
So just like part of the person, I think the biggest thing that we've talked about today is just service and being able to serve. And not only having done that with your 20 years in the Navy, but also kind of letting that service spirit just exude in the work that you're doing. Also to allow volunteers to start thinking about, or students in general, anybody in general, to start thinking about what does it truly mean to serve and putting themselves in positions as such to do that.
Exactly. And I think, I'm old. My children are college students now. But what I see among college students and young adults is such a drive to make an impact in the world. And an understanding that we all vote with our actions about what kind of community we want to live in. And so when you are reaching out to people in your community, extending a helping hand, doing something that's going to make your community a better place, you're helping shape the world around you. And I think college students and young adults get that in a way that maybe other generations don't always. And we see that at UNC. I mean, when I was there for MLK Day, so many students up on a cold holiday morning, ready to get to work and make a difference in the community. I mean, and then last fall, was it 9/11 that we did the day of? Yeah. Same thing. Hundreds of students coming out. How can I help? How can I make a difference? And I think that's really the spirit of UNC Pembroke. And I know other college campuses have that as well, but I really see that on your campus.
Thank you so much. Hey, this is the culture that we're trying to cultivate and trying to create those enriching experiences. And I think too, as with all that you all do, and I know like how our conversation stemmed just to start partnership. I remember it like it was yesterday. You and Matthew Allen came to my office and we kind of had a conversation about what you all do, what we do with community and civic engagement, and how can we mesh this together to create opportunities. But I would say, Kelly, if you would mind sharing also, what are ways, like what does a good partnership to you look like? Because in my eyes, like I could see this truly evolving, whether it's getting you all connected, like, hey, social work department, like, don't forget, hey, we have this amazing community partner that has so many opportunities available for your students, or even if it's like counseling or nursing, but what does a good partnership look like for you?
Well, I mean, I think both of us have to benefit. So for me, the benefit to me is that I get eager, capable young people who want to make a difference. So that's great for Red Cross to have this core of students who want to serve and want to make a difference. And then hopefully we'll, stick with the Red Cross long haul. So that's a benefit to me. But we need to provide a benefit to you as well. And, I think the benefit we provide to the campus and your students is that we provide you work experience, which can go on a resume. We can also, a lot of our service can be used to augment the education. So for example, social work students who are in the healthcare field, those students can work in aligned volunteer positions that will help augment their education and give a little bit of real world experience to go along with what they're learning in the classroom.
And that's nice. That's like really spotlights that Jill has taken on, really holding in on the community partners that we have and allowing us to be kind of like our first step, I'd say, and maybe our second, But that step to say, hey, like, no, we have this partner in our backyard, literally. This is what they're offering. Hey, let's take advantage of that. Let's see how we can continue to expand on the opportunities that are really out there that can create those environments for our students. And I would say too, so with the current times we're in, and I know we've talked about COVID and kind of the impacts and the challenges of this and this climate, but just now, Kelly, what are some opportunities that students can be a part of now, just at your organization or with your organization?
So we have remote opportunities and we have in person. And I would say our number one need in person right now is blood drives. So if, a student organization, a fraternity, a sorority, a club wanted to do something as a group, host a blood drive. I mean, the need for blood is ongoing. And that is a great project for a team of people if they want to pull that together. That would be fantastic. We have a lot of remote stuff now. So, COVID's changing the world. And one of the things it's really caused us to do is to think about how much of what we do can be done remotely. So, for example, it used to be if there was a family that had a home fire, we would send a team to their home to sit with them, to comfort them, and then to provide financial resources and to make arrangements for them to find a place to stay for the next few days, and then to work with them going forward. We don't do that anymore. Now it's all by phone. And so we have lost that personal touch that so many of our volunteers really enjoy, but we're able to support more people. And now instead of giving people a debit card that they can use, we do a funds transfer. So they get the money right away into their bank account in a way so that they can use those funds to support their recovery effort. So that's remote. So that's called disaster assistance. That's 100% remote right now. A lot of our volunteer services stuff, 100% remote right now. We miss people, but we know that remote volunteering is also, the benefit is that remote volunteering is more convenient for some of our prospective volunteers. For the other in-person thing, and this is probably not a great fit for college students, but the need for people to support our sheltering operations is ongoing. So we have got people from all over the country in Louisiana, literally all over the country in Louisiana right now, opening up shelters as a response to Hurricanes Laura, Marco, and Sally. And, we hope it's not going to come to something here, but it might. It's been 2020's been a mess. I mean, 2020's been really bad. And we're going to be going into Greek letters for the hurricanes, which we haven't done in I don't know how long. I mean, this is historic record-setting hurricane season, which, of course, why not? But so if we need to open up shelters here, we provide 4 hours of online training, and then we just ask people to commit to one 12-hour shift. So can you come in and work in a shelter one shift, 12 hours. And what those folks do is check clients in because we need accountability for who's in the shelter, but then also just sort of circulate and make sure people are okay. Imagine you've left your home and you don't know if you're ever going to get back there. You don't know, what are the flood waters going to do? Is there going to be a tree on your roof when you go home? And so that is a hard thing. That's a hard role, but it's critically important. We have one of our volunteers talks about, it was for Matthew. He was a Red Cross volunteer. It was his first shift ever. So he had signed up, he'd done the quick online training to be ready to work in a shelter. And as he's in the shelter working, a brand new mom comes in with a baby that was just delivered and they were discharged from the hospital. So this baby is 48 hours old. So this mom has delivered a baby, been discharged from the hospital, does not have a home to go to. So she came to our shelter. And so he and another volunteer took turns holding this baby all night long so the mom could get some rest. And, it's those kinds of experiences, I think, that, I'm sure that mom he remembers it. Like he wells up as he tells this story, but I bet that mom remembers it too. I bet she remembers the kindness of these strangers that allowed her to get some rest right after she'd had a baby. So again, that's a hard job, but it's a short-term job. It would be, 12 hours, maybe more if they're willing. And I know that that's difficult for students, but I think if we have a hurricane, school's probably going to be closed. So, yeah.
Kelly, I guess would you say, or you would say, I would say just a way to offer that encouragement during this time for our students. What would you say would just be something that you could share one thing with our student body right now?
I would say these are hard days, right? I mean, there is, COVID makes everything harder. And then we've had protests for justice across the country this year, which is another thing that has got people really thinking about what kind of world do we want to live in. And I think what we've learned this year is that connecting with each other is critical. Like that human can, when you talk about what you want to do after COVID, it's not go out and buy a new piece of technology or, something really spectacular. It's people, people want to reconnect. They want to be around people again. They want to see family. They want to see friends. They want to come together to celebrate things. And I think what that points to is that we have this real need to connect and to see each other and to see how, how are we alike and how can we help each other? And then how do we make things better? How do we get past all of this distress? How do we make this world a better place? And so I think volunteering is the way to do that. It's, there's so many great organizations. I mean, yes, I would love it if people came to the Red Cross, but if, helping children who are in distress is what really moves you, then find an organization that does that. If preventing childhood hunger is something that moves you, find an organization that does that. If supporting victims of domestic violence is something that really speaks to you, then find an organization that does that. But we all have the ability to make things better. And I think, if we do that, if that's where we focus our energies, then I think we can move forward and make this a better place.
I think this was sound Kelly. I would say, how do students, if they wanted to get in contact with maybe the American Red Cross or you, what would be the way to do it?
So we have a website, redcross.org/volunteer today, and that takes people to our most critical needs. Or, you have my email address. Please feel free to share that with whoever. If people have a question or they want to talk with me more about what it would look like to volunteer, I'm happy to chat with anyone who might have some questions that need answering. And honestly, if you've got an hour a month, we would love to have that hour. We have some volunteers who work 40 hours a week for us, and that's amazing. But I know that's not most people's reality, especially now. So if you can give us some of your time, we would be very, very grateful.
Thank you so much.
Thank you
for joining us, just for shedding light on an amazing organization, really right in our backyard that offers immense opportunities just for our students and just the work that you all continue to do as you continue to serve. So I'm extremely thankful just for having you on this WebEx call today, just shedding light. And I'm thankful for Jill as well, just for organizing this, because I feel like if we have more conversations like this, then this can kind of create that awareness and start to kind of turn our wheels a little more on creating that change, especially on our college campus.
Thanks so much. I mean, the students at UNC Pembroke are terrific. I probably get an inquiry from a student on your campus at least once a week, and they are great volunteers. So I know juggling college and life can be hard, but we will work with you. If this is something you'd like to do, we'll find a way for you to participate.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Kelly, once again. And thank you, Jill, once again, just for organizing this. And for anybody who may be listening or watching to this recording, just know that we're going to do plenty more of these. So our next one is going to be on October the 15th, same time, 10 a.m., where you'll also get to hear from another community organization and the work that they do within the community, as well as learning how you can get involved. So Kelly, once again, thank you so much. And I look forward to being in contact with you very, very, very soon.
I can't wait to see you in person again. I so miss people.
I miss you, and I hate it because you just can't do the physical touch. It's like your hugs from afar.
I know. I start to go towards somebody to hug, and they're like, wait, we can't hug. Virtual hug.
Well, sending you a virtual hugs, Kelly. Thank you.
Right back at you. Great seeing you today. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, and I look forward to seeing you all again soon.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.